Walmart reported their financial earnings beating on revenue and earnings per share. I like watching what happens with Walmart simply because it's a good barometer as to what's happening with the broader economy. They're the biggest retailer here in the United States. Amazon, of course, is sneaking up on them, but Amazon is doing so more from revenue growth outside of retail. So watching Walmart is an important thing. Walmart stock, WMT, of course, shooting higher. Where does it go from here? First, I started all my analysis with the economy. The Federal Reserve is restricting growth. We're going to see a lower growth rate for the economy because of higher interest rates. Consumers are going to be strapped a little bit longer with interest rate levels where they are. This would mean less consumption because there's less available income for consumption. That will affect Walmart stock. It will affect the entire economy across the board. Now, this isn't a call for a recession, but certainly we may be at the very top for Walmart stock. So if you want to get a good analysis as to what's going on with Walmart stock, let's break things down. I've got a bunch of charts I want to look at. Let's jump into the computer. Here's a look at Walmart stock. WMT is the ticker symbol for Walmart stock, and as you can see, we had a pretty decent sized move higher. 7 cents earnings per share on the beat. That's pretty robust. Right now, as I'm doing this video, the stock market itself, the broader stock market, has sold off somewhat. So Walmart stock has backed off, but there's still a couple hours left in the trading day. We'll see where it goes. But really, where does it go from here? Now, it may move a little bit higher in the interim, but I'm looking at the much bigger picture. Throughout the rest of the summer, June, July, and August, my expectations are for the stock market to kind of basically move sideways, maybe poke its head up above the recent highs. But we continue to get information that says that the Federal Reserve cannot lower interest rates. At the same time, we're starting to get a lot of information saying that the consumer is tapped. And if that's the case, where does the growth come from Walmart? That's really kind of what I've been focusing on, that we're probably going to see less robust growth. So these stock prices, which are overvalued in some regard, from stocks being pushed as high as they can, chasing yield, we're probably going to see a lot of savvy traders hitting the sell button. Moving forward to look at a bigger picture, as you can see, this goes all the way back to 2020 when Walmart stock was at 32, nearly doubling, actually more than doubling, in just the 4 years. Now, for a retailer, they've got very tight margins. So for a retailer, this is pretty outstanding when you look at it from that perspective. Keep in mind, you can't compare apples and oranges with Walmart stock versus Amazon. Bottom line is Amazon gets money or revenue from other areas of their businesses outside of retail. So the two aren't really comparable. Now, I saw a really interesting article out of Wall Street Journal just today where they talked about that comparison. And my takeaway from that was basically this. What if Walmart were to get really inventive? Now, I know what they have been doing is looking at their online presence and saying, listen, Amazon has 7 million products available. Let's just get the top 1 million, which account for 80% of all of that revenue generation, and let's only list that, which helps out overall being more competitive. Given that, Walmart, if they were to reinvent themselves in any kind of capacity whatsoever, and maybe start doing cloud or maybe start going into other avenues where they can compete based on their size and do something outside of just retail, Walmart has a lot of potential in that regards. I don't actually see Walmart doing something like that, but they're going to have to get growth somewhere. And at this point, it's something like 90% of Americans shop at Walmart. How are you going to get more growth? At the same time, we're staring a decline in the rate of growth of the economy. Not a recession, a decline. That would probably bring Walmart stock as well as the entire stock market lower. Taking a look at some numbers, breaking down Walmart stock, assets at $254 billion, cash, a low amount of cash on hand, $9 billion, and then liabilities $165, giving a total equity of $88. Shares outstanding 8 billion with the $65 price. 528 billion is the market capitalization. This gives enterprise value after adding market and liabilities, subtracting the cash on hand, as you can see there. Price to earnings ratio 25.32. This is a little high considering their margins. The broader stock market itself is pushing right at 30. So Walmart itself is slightly lower than the broader market, but it is still high for a retailer. You can see price to sales quite low. Price to cash flow 13.58. That's right around the modest area. And price to book value about 5.29. Taking a look at price to earnings, despite it being as high as it is, it's low comparatively for itself. That could continue that trend. We'll see. Price to sales, again, this is a really razor thin price to sales metric. Price to cash flow 13.58. As you can see there, they're kind of maintaining a level, and price to book as well, maintaining a level playground there. Return on assets, return on equity, and return on invested capital. Breaking these down, return on assets 7.59%, which is actually a pretty decent number. Return on equity is kind of high actually, and return on invested capital 14.32%. But still, where does revenue growth come from? Q1 was an improvement over Q1 2023. Expectations are for projected revenues for Walmart to $676 billion for 2024. I had to revise that up from my most recent projections that I'd seen from analysts. As well, 2025 projected revenues at 703. I do not believe they hit these numbers, plain and simple, because I believe that the economy will be contracted somewhat. That tells me that the stock market is ahead of economics. The economic indicators actually drive the stock market. We'll probably see a correction in the stock market, broadly speaking, as well as Walmart stock. We have seen data points coming in that the consumer is tapped out. Unemployment is starting to inch a little bit higher. We get unemployment numbers coming out on Friday. That could easily start to poke its head a little bit higher. Then all of a sudden, all these stocks start selling off. Net margins, fairly thin, 3.16%, well below the norm of about 10.75% for the S&P 500. Earnings per share, 63 cents for Q1. Projected earnings per share, $2.43 for 2024. I took the next 4 quarters. We just printed Q1, so Q2, 3, 4, and then Q1 2025 to come up with $2.48 for earnings per share on a projected basis. Brings Walmart stock with a price of $65.36, yield 3.79%. You can get in the U.S. 10-year Treasury bond at 4.41%, 4.25, somewhere in that range. The downside risk to the benchmark investment 10-year Treasury yield is quite minimal. The Federal Reserve eventually will have to lower interest rates. They're probably not going to have to raise interest rates, but they're certainly concerned that inflation is not falling fast enough. Because of that, Walmart stock has a much bigger risk ratio to the downside. Me personally, I'm not buying these stocks. I'm buying TLT stock, which is the price of treasuries, the 20 and the 30 year, long-dated treasuries. If the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, it's a matter of when, not if, in my book. TLT stock, which I've been building up a position on over the past couple weeks, will continue to move higher. The Federal Reserve is probably not going to be raising interest rates, so I feel fairly confident that my position going into bonds, getting out of stocks, makes a lot more sense on a risk to ratio perspective. Downside risk to Walmart, a lot of people chase after this, especially big institutions, because it's Walmart. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always right. A lot of these holders of Walmart stock have been doing so for decades. So they're not going to move their position whatsoever. But the fact that Walmart stock has been pushed to a yield of 3.79%, that's too high relative to the risk to the downside of the U.S. economy as the economy contracts. I'd be looking for Walmart stock when the price to earnings ratio, which I don't expect them to hit the 248 going forward, despite the fact, notwithstanding that they just beat by 7 cents this quarter, I don't think they hit 248. I don't think they hit their revenue goals. And Walmart stock moves lower, relatively, along with the rest of the stock market. If you want to keep tabs on Walmart stock and my outlook on Walmart stock, make sure to hit that like and follow button. To follow my trades, TLT stock, that trade's doing very well. Make sure to hit the like and follow button down below. I've got my Substack newsletter, link to that's in the description. See you in the next video.